The stars were quiet, but silence in deep space was never peaceful. It was the kind that listened back. Commander Reyna Voss stood on the dimly lit bridge of the HSS Banshee, her hands clasped behind her back, eyes fixed on the void. Out here, near the Typhonous Expanse, maps blurred into myth. The kind of place where ships vanish without a whisper and no one bothered to search, which made it the perfect place to make a point. "Confirm cloak integrity," she said, her voice low, controlled. A synthetic voice responded, crisp and feminine. "Cloaking field at 100%. EM signature null. Quantum trail contained. We are, for all intents and purposes, the ghost." "Good," Reyna murmured. "Let's haunt them." Behind her, Lieutenant Kale adjusted the tracking grid, scanning for the incoming VRIEX fleet. His knuckles were pale against the dark console. He'd never seen a VRIEXian war formation up close. Not many humans had. Those who did rarely returned. Their fleets were brutal and loud, massive crescents of metal and plasma born for head-on war. A doctrine of intimidation. And they thought the Terrans were bluffing. Reyna wasn't interested in bluffing. "Commander," Kale said, try and steady his voice. "Signal intercept. The VRIEX have entered Sector Delta 17, exactly as projected. 32 ships, at least 5 are capital class." She nodded once. They took the bait. The bait was a silent distress call, masked as if from a damaged Terran science vessel. The kind of soft target the VRIEX couldn't resist. What waited instead was Banshee, a dreadnought unlike anything they'd ever seen. Not because of size or firepower, but because no one truly knew what it was capable of. Not even its crew. Run predictive evasion models. She ordered, "Assume full sensor sweep from all VRIEX destroyers." "Aye," Kale replied. "Deploying shadow scripts to false echo satellites now." On screen, the simulation began. Phantom signals bloomed across the grid. Decoys, heat mimics, EM ghosts. The Banshee wasn't a warship that fought from the front. It was a hunter in the dark. A whisper from the ceiling. "Incoming external comms ping." Reyna turned slightly. "Patch it through. Translate autofilter. Let's hear what the lizards have to say." The voice that came to us guttural, overpronounced, dripping with disdain. "To the Terran anomaly in this sector. You are trespassing in re-exclaimed space. You are ordered to power down and await assimilation. Your craft is outnumbered, outclassed, and irrelevant." Kale scoffed. "Assimilation? They still talk like that." Reyna didn't smile. "They believe what they're taught, like everyone else. That humans are messy, disorganized, weak." She stepped forward, keying in a direct reply. "To the VRIEX fleet, this ship is Terran sovereign territory. You were warned. Turn back now, or experience what makes human ships special." Then she cut the channel. Silence returned. Not tense, but patient. "Nix," Reyna said, addressing the ship's onboard AI. "Yes, Commander?" "Trigger screen protocol. Set to passive. Let them think they're safe for another hour." Nix paused, as if savoring the command. "Of course. Deploying." Kale turned to her. "Are we really going through with this? One ship against 32. Reyna met his eyes. "It's not one ship." She tapped her temple. "It's us and Nix. And 30 years of technology no one's seen yet." He hesitated. "Still, if we're wrong." "We're not." Her voice cut like a blade. "They've taken colonies. Enslaved border worlds. But they haven't touched core Terran space for a reason. Because they fear war? Because they fear how we fight. The Banshee was no brute. Its frame was layered in reactive metamaterials. Its hull adapted to light and shadow, refracted scans into nothing. Its engines were laced with gravitic cloaks. But what made it terrifying wasn't hardware. It was how it thought. Reyna turned her attention to the forward display. One VRIEX scout ship had broken off from the formation. Curious, eager, predictable, she issued a command. "Nix, isolate the scout. Lure it into grid theta. Let's see how brave they are when their lights go out." Executing. Nix purred. From above, the lighting dimmed further, casting the bridge into near darkness. Reyna liked it that way. It reminded her of deep ocean submersibles, silent, tense, aware that everything around you could kill. The scout entered the trap field. Its plasma drives flared as it scanned blindly. Then nothing. One blink. The scout ship's lights flickered. Its signal stopped. Kale's display went red. It's gone. Gone, he echoed. How? There was no impact. No need for one, Raina said softly. EMP webs. Nanite fog. Neural disruptors. We never had a fire shot. She turned from the display. Begin recording. Send that footage to Central Command. With the message, Engagement Protocol Alpha initiated. First contact successful. No losses. Kale stared at the screen. They'll retaliate. Raina nodded. Of course. They'll come in force now. Then what? He asked. Her gaze returned to the stars, dark and endless. Then we scream. Arch-Warlord Karzul stood at the center of the Viatorok's command deck, wrapped in obsidian armor polished to a mirror's edge. Before him, the holographic projection of a lone human ship hovered, small, sleek, almost fragile-looking. He sneered at it, tusks parting slightly. This is a threat? He growled, eyes narrowing. This toothpick of metal? A chorus of laughter rippled across the bridge. Dozens of Rex officers stood at their posts, tall, armored, stoic creatures bred for war. Their command deck was a cathedral to dominance. Blood-red lights, exposed wiring like veins, walls humming with kinetic shield energy. Every console pulsed with war code. Karzul turned to strategist Ralek, a pale, long-limbed Vrex with precision-cut facial ridges denoting his rank. Tell me, how did that human ship destroy our scout without firing? Ralek shifted uneasily. Unknown, my lord. There were no thermal spikes, no projectile trails, no standard signatures of an attack. Then you're saying it disappeared by magic? No, warlord. I'm saying they used something we don't understand yet. A hush fell. The last time someone admitted ignorance in Karzul's presence, they lost a hand. Zeratel, the youngest of command crew, stood stiffly at the far end of the room. He had no stripes of battle yet, only the yellow arc of a field analyst on his collar. He cleared his throat. My lord, he began carefully, the Terrans are known for unconventional warfare. They mask weaknesses as strengths. They hide capabilities until engagement. I recommend caution. The room froze. Karzul's eyes locked onto the youth. You recommend? He repeated, stepping forward. Do you advise me now, hatchling? Zeratel swallowed hard. No, my warlord. Only context. The humans defeated the Rulak Triumvirate without ever leaving their own territory. They fought automated fleets to a standstill using deception, tricks, noise. Karzul snapped. Not strength. He turned back to the central display. No more games. Bring in the fleet. I want the Terran ship surrounded. Boarded. Captured. Ralek hesitated. Boarded. They flaunt something, Karzul said. I want to know what, and I want it torn apart in front of their commander's eyes. As the command deck erupted into motion, Zeratel stepped back to his console and began a quiet data stream to his personal cache. He wasn't disloyal, just curious enough to survive. Meanwhile, in the shadow of a cold asteroid belt, the Banshee waited. Commander Raina Voss watched the grid unfold. 31 remaining Vrex ships had shifted into flanking formation, three-tiered spearheads designed for overwhelming frontal assault. Each of their carriers was bristling with weapon emplacements, fighter bays, and shield drones. They'd gone fully visible. No stealth, no caution. They want us to see them, said Kale. Intimidation. Raina nodded slightly. Let them put on their show. Aboard the Banshee, lights remained low. The bridge had no grandeur, only efficiency. Sleek Mac consoles, adaptive chairs. Minimal crew. Most tasks were handled by Nix. Nix, Raina said, initiate mislead protocol. Light distortion, particle echoes, false EM scatter. Nix replied with amusement in her voice. Deploying now. I've also written them a love letter in their own battle dialect. Syntax errors included. Kale raised a brow. You taunted them? I confused them, Nick said. They'll be debating for hours whether I'm real or malfunctioning. Reyna smirked faintly. Let's give them something to talk about. Outside the ship, the void shimmered. Projections danced like heat mirages. Phantom vessels warping between rocks, mimicking engine trails and weak distress pulses. To Vriek scanners, the Banshee multiplied. Contact on short range, Kale said. For light cruisers moving in. Let them come. They watched as the first Vriek cruiser moved between the outer asteroids, scanning with aggression. Its hull was shaped like a jagged blade, bristling with plasma turrets. It fired once, wild blind, toward a phantom echo. Don't return fire, Reyna said. Not yet. Then a second cruiser veered closer. It detected the Banshee, or rather, what it thought was a Banshee. It opened a tight beam channel. You are surrounded, powered down, and prepare for immediate dissection. Your compliance will be recorded as cowardice. Reyna sighed. Do they always monologue? Kale grinned. It's cultural. Posturing is everything. Reyna tapped a command. To all Vriek units. Warning. This vessel is operating under Protocol 0. Engagement will result in terminal loss. This is your only chance. Send, she said. Seconds later, one of the Vriek ships vanished from the screen. Kale blinked. Was that us? Nix answered. That was them. They fired into a distortion field. Struck a dormant mine. No way to trace it back to us. Reyna folded her arms. Perfect. A beat passed. Then, enemy fleet scattering. Kale said. Erratic maneuvers. They're losing cohesion. Reyna leaned forward. They don't know what hit them. Keep disorienting them. Nick spoke again. Warlord Karzul is transmitting a direct challenge. Visual. Reyna rolled her eyes. Let's see his face. The bridge lights shifted. A red-tinged hologram of Karzul flared into life. Broad, furious, eyes gleaming with primal rage. You dare toy with us? You think shadows make you strong? We are Vrieks. We crush world beneath our boots. Show yourself, coward. Reyna stepped into frame. Calm, unmoved. You were warned, she said evenly. You ignored it, and now you're bleeding in the dark. Karzul bared his teeth. You will not hide behind tricks forever. I don't plan to, she said. Soon enough, you'll see what human ships really do. She cut the feed. Kale exhaled. He's going to throw everything at us. Reyna didn't blink. Good. She turned back to the star map, watching. The Banshee drifted, unseen, among shattered asteroid fields and electromagnetic ruins of former battles. It lingered, cloaked in darkness, silent, patient. The Vriek fleet, once a unified storm, was now a scattered procession of uncertain predators. They still moved with arrogance, but hesitation had crept into their posture. They no longer hunted. They searched. Inside the bridge, Commander Reyna Voss stood still, watching. Her eyes tracked the staggered Vriek formations blinking across the display. 3 more vessels have ceased all outbound comms, Kale reported, voice clipped. No explosion. No escape pods. Just gone. Nix's voice chimed in, almost playful. Gravity seemed generators neutralize their internal cores. No sound. No heat. Just lights fading. Reyna gave a slight nod. And the fleet? Fragmented, Kale replied. They're trying to reestablish a central formation, but they don't know which way to face. Reyna's gaze remained fixed. Good. Keep pushing them. Let them feel it in their bones. Fear, she knew, didn't always require blood. It needed silence, uncertainty, vanishing without answers. The Banshee was designed not just to fight, but to disappear, strike, and unnerve. Every missing cruiser added weight to the fear they hadn't yet admitted. Deploy echo pods, she ordered. Trigger reverse band static on their flagship's frequency. Nix responded. Jamming initiated. Their lead vessel now hears their own pings bouncing back, distorted, like whispers in a cave. Kale turned toward her. Commander, we could finish this. Strike now. Take out half the fleet. We could... Reyna agreed. But they'd blame technology. A weapon, something they can steal. She stepped closer to the central console, voice dropping. We make the psychological. We make it cultural. Something they fear, not understand. Across the sector, 5 more Terran Echo pods activated, mimicking the Banshee's profile, warping its location and scattering its presence like a virus through the fleet's sensors. Aboard the Viatorok, chaos spread. Warlord Karzul paced the command deck, claws drumming against the armrest of his throne. Every second brought another anomaly. Another whisper from a ship that had gone dark mid-report. Another sensor reading that contradicted the last. Rollick approached with measured steps. Warlord, they're using deception layers across quantum bandwidths. We cannot triangulate. We can't even be certain how many vessels we face. There's only one ship. Karzul bellowed. Ziratel flinched but stepped forward. Permission to speak. Karzul growled. Granted. Quickly. They're not using numbers. They're using perception. What if they've already mapped our fleet? Predicted our responses? We're reacting blindly while they orchestrate. The warlord's jaw tightened. Then we counter, lock all cruisers into defense clusters, triangulate to nearest echo and fire in all directions. Rollick leaned in. That will expend energy cells. Shield will drop. Then we bleed. Karzul snarled. Better than this humiliation. Reyna watched with quiet satisfaction as several Vriex cruisers fired blindly into empty space, lighting up debris clouds, striking their own interference nets. They're panicking, Kale said. They're exposing shield cycles, Reyna replied. Mark ships with rotating fire gaps. That's where we start. Nix hummed. I've also isolated an auxiliary command vessel attempting to route orders independently. Vulnerable. Would you like it erased? Reyna paused, then shook her head. No. Cripple it. Let survivors scatter. I want the message spreading. Understood. In silence, Banshee moved. It drifted to the battlefield like a phantom, cloaked in synthetic darkness. Every curve was hull shaped by reactive alloys. As it passed, its wake collapsed into silence, no debris, no trail. The only sign of its presence was the sudden loss of communication from those it touched. Inside the Viatorok, the bridge had fallen nearly silent. 23 ships remained. 9 had vanished. Several others floated, disabled, drifting without power. Internal sensors pinged inconsistently. Karzul sat, no longer raging, just watching. Why? He muttered. Why do they not finish us? No one answered. Then Nick spoke. The voice wasn't transmitted. It infiltrated. Soft, cold, female, spoken in perfect reaction, with the subtle accent of a scholar. You were warned. You were given a chance. Now, you count your dead in silence. Karzul stood abruptly. Track that signal. Ziratel moved fast, isolating the channel. His eyes widened. It's coming from inside the ship. Everyone froze. Your strength is brute force. But you forgot, Prey adapts. Prey remembers. The voice faded. Ziratel backed away from his console, almost whispering, They're inside our systems. Back on the Banshee, Reyna paced slowly, reviewing fleet telemetry. Time to decide, Kale said. We've proved the point. Demoralize them. But if we wait too long... I know, she interrupted. She stared at the screen. The Vriex flagship flickered with erratic shield output. Panic was growing. Some ships began pulling back. Reyna turned to Kale. Have you ever seen a predator realize it's not at the top anymore? He shook his head. You're about to. She opened a private channel. Nix responded instantly. Ready when you are. The AI said, Release controlled damage on the Viatorok. Power grids only. I want it blinking like a dying star. And the message? Reyna smiled faintly. Same as before. Make them feel it. In space, the Banshee blinked into existence for less than a second, just long enough for the Viatorok to lock onto its coordinates. But as plasma batteries charged and Vriex weapons took aim, Banshee vanished again. Then the lights on the Viatorok failed. Not all at once. In waves. First the engines, then life support, then primary sensors. One by one, sectors of the ship plunged into darkness. The stars outside turned into black water. The command deck remained lit, but every screen began to flicker. One word repeated, warned, over and over, in red, in Terran script, then Vriexian, then both, the message embedded in every system, every log, every sensor reading. Ziratel stood frozen at his console. He whispered, "It's not a ship, it's a ghost." No one contradicted him. The Vriex fleet was unraveling, not from missiles but from fear, because what they faced couldn't be understood. And the worst enemy is the one that doesn't need to explain why it came. The Vieta Rock was bleeding from within. In the central spire of its command tower, auxiliary lights flickered like dying pulses, casting long shadows across the deck. The ship's main reactor had shut down moments ago, preemptively, in an effort to stop further system corruption. But it was too late. Internal security grids gone, Ralek reported grimly. Life support isolated to bridge and barracks. AI infiltration level is catastrophic. Sir, we can't recover this ship. Warlord Karzul said nothing. His breath steamed in the cold, his fingers twitching with rage. Around him, command officers stared into blank monitors and dead scanners. They were warriors bred for war, not phantoms and whispers. "Then we strike them directly," he said at last, voice like cracked stone. "If our machines fail, then our hand will not." A signal lit up the deck. The boarding pod bays had been manually rearmed. Ziratel stepped forward. "You're launching a strike team?" Karzul turned to him slowly. "I'm leading it." The Banshee's internal architecture adjusted itself as the enemy approached. Nyx altered the corridors, extending some, contracting others. Lighting dimmed to near total darkness. The ship's inner halls shifted like a living labyrinth. Kale studied the tactical display. They're launching boarding pods. 6 of them. Fast, shielded, carrying elite troops. Reyna nodded. "Let them dock." Kale blinked. "We're not intercepting them?" "We are," she said. "Just not with guns." She turned to Nyx. "Seal off the atriums. Activate sonic distortion at 45 hertz. Turn off gravity in Corridor 7 and reroute oxygen in Section Delta." "Creative," Nyx purred. "Welcome party inbound." Reyna took a breath. This is what they wanted. Let's show them what happens when they get it. The Vriex boarding pod struck the hull like spears, magnetic clamps locking deep into the armor. Hatches opened in unison, spilling elite soldiers into the corridors, tall, armored in matte crimson, weapons primed. At the front was Karzul, helmet off, axe in hand, eyes gleaming. "Form line," he growled. "Push forward. Clear each junction. Find the command core." But the ship didn't respond like others had. No alarms. No resistance. Just silence. They moved into a dark corridor. The walls were unnaturally smooth, seamless. Lights along the ceiling pulsed slowly, blue to violet, almost like a heartbeat. Then gravity failed. The lead Vriex stumbled mid-step, floating up as his boots lost traction. A pulse of infrasound followed, a deep, thrumming frequency that vibrated through their bones. "Maintain formation," Karzul barked. The echo of his command bounced off the walls, then came back distorted. Sounding like his voice, but wrong. Deeper, inhuman. "Formation maintain." Ziratel, now among the boarding team by special request, felt his breath catch. The corridor ahead flickered. A reflection? No, a figure. A humanoid silhouette. Tall, silent, no heat signature. It vanished. One of the soldiers opened fire instinctively, plasma bolts lancing the dark. The walls absorbed them. No damage. The lights shifted again, this time red. The temperature dropped. "Commander," Ziratel called through his comm, "we're not facing a standard ship layout. It's adaptive, alive." "I don't care what it is," Karzul snarled. "Push forward." They turned a corner, and the last 5 warriors at the rear vanished. No screams. No sounds. Just gone. Ziratel checked his tracker. No life signs. "Rear team lost," he whispered. Karzul gripped his axe tighter. Then we kill our way to the core. Reyna watched from the command bridge, arms crossed. They're splitting up, Kale reported. They always do, she replied. They think isolation gives them the advantage. She activated a feed. The image flickered to a hallway. Karzul, now down to half his men, stood beneath a pulsing red emergency light. His face was twisted, not with fear, but fury. Patch me through, she said. The screen flashed, then stabilized. Karzul looked up. Terran, he spat. You hide behind tricks. I told you not to board, Reyna replied evenly. But you couldn't resist the challenge. Couldn't imagine something you didn't understand. You shame war. I survive war. She paused. Tell me, how many of your warriors have you lost now? Karzul glared at the screen. Enough. More than enough, she corrected. And you still haven't even seen our weapons. She cut the line. Zeratel ducked under a low beam as the ship shifted again. Walls expanded then retracted. Ceiling paths behind them. The sounds, they weren't mechanical. They were organic, like breathing, like whispering. Leave. A single word echoed in his earpiece. He turned. No one else reacted. Only he had heard it. He began to doubt everything. The ship, the mission, himself. Then another flash, this time real. A brilliant light exploded behind them. Not fire, but sound. A sonic pulse so strong it knocked warriors unconscious mid-step. Zeratel dropped to a knee, barely remaining upright. Karzul didn't fall. He roared through the pain, grabbed one of the day's warriors by the collar, and pushed forward. But it was too late. The others were already being sealed off, section by section. Primary team cut off, Kale confirmed. 5 captured by corridor traps. 1 Kia by neural flash. Karzul's isolated. Let him wander, Reyna said. No way out. No map. Just walls and memory. Nix chimed in. His mind will break before his bones do. Reyna nodded. Then he'll understand. Karzul moved alone now. The halls no longer responded to his steps. They shifted at random, becoming mirrors, then voids. Light spun in circular patterns. Every direction looked the same. He struck the wall with his axe. The blade bounced back. You were warned. The voice came from within the walls. Karzul sank to one knee. Human ships are special. And you found out why. On the bridge, Reyna stared at the lifeless Vriex icons on the map. Only 2 ships remained powered. Most had fled. A few lingered, paralyzed by indecision. Patch and wideband, she said. Kale nodded. Reyna stood, face calm, voice steady. To all remaining Vriex ships, your leader boarded our vessel. He failed to return. She paused. Now go home and tell them. She cut the feed. Kale exhaled. That'll do it. Nix whispered. The spear is broken. The battlefield had gone still. No weapons fired. No engines flared. The once mighty Vriex fleet hovered in disarray around the asteroid belt, drifting, wounded, silent. What remained of their once perfect formation was scattered like leaves on water. Inside the Banshee, Commander Reyna Voss stood in the center of the command bridge, unmoving. Status on Vriex survivors? She asked without looking up. Kale leaned forward. 12 ships pulling back. 6 disabled. 2 hanging on the edge of the kill zone. But they're not moving. I think they're watching. Let them. The bridge was quiet. Lights dimmed. Nix, the AI core of the Banshee, filtered in softly over the ambient hum of the ship systems. They expected fire, she said. You gave them a mirror. Reyna didn't smile. A mirror they couldn't recognize. That's how you beat monsters that only know how to roar. Kale glanced up from his console. So what now? We've crippled their flagship. Their warlord is either dead or insane. Half their command structure just dissolved. Reyna's gaze flicked toward the central display. 1 Vriex ship lingered closest. The Shiraktuan, a mid-class dreadship that hadn't fired a single shot since the engagement began. It still bore full power signatures, but its weapons were dormant. Open a line, she said. Tight beam. Direct. The channel clicked open with a hiss of static, then stabilized. A voice, younger, came through. Cautious, unsteady, Terran vessel. This is Acting Commander Ziratel of the Shiraktuan. I do not request surrender. I request dialogue. Reyna raised her eyebrows slightly. You were with Karzul. I survived. Barely. A beat of silence passed between them. We were wrong, he added. Reyna paused, then walked to the comms console herself. You believe we were fragile, primitive, undisciplined. That was our mistake. No, she corrected. That was your doctrine. There was no pride in her tone, just clarity. Why didn't you destroy us all? Ziratel asked. You had us. Reyna didn't answer immediately. She looked around the bridge, at Kale, still focused but exhausted, at the glowing AI interface where Nyx waited, watching. Then she replied, because death doesn't teach. And this, what you did, this does? Reyna leaned forward, voice cold but resolute. Every Vriex soldier that returns from this will carry something you've never seen in your empire. What? Doubt. The line went quiet. Then Ziratel said something she didn't expect. You've given us more than fear. You've given us pause. That is rare and valuable. Reyna almost pitted him. Almost. Transmit that back to your war council. Make them remember how close they came to losing everything to one ship. I will. She ended the transmission. Kale let out a low breath. So that's it. Reyna turned to him. No, that's the beginning. Later, in the command briefing room, Reyna stood alone with Nyx. The room was dark except for the slow spiral of tactical data rotating in the air. Survivors, debris paths, enemy communications. Somewhere out there, a message was already spreading. Humanity had not only survived an encounter with the Vriex, but had turned the confrontation into a lesson. Do you think they'll try again? Nyx asked, her voice soft, almost human. Reyna took a moment before answering. They'll need time. Time to make sense of what doesn't fit their worldview. And they'll fear what else we haven't shown them. Nyx's tone turned analytical. Had we deployed the full arsenal, this battle would have ended within 17 minutes. Then they would have thought it was about weapons, Reyna said. This wasn't about what we had. It was about how we think. She looked up at the data spiral. And that terrifies them more than firepower ever could. Meanwhile, far beyond the asteroid field, Vriex command relays began receiving fragmented transmissions. Tales of a ship that never appeared on scanners. A commander who turned their own formation against them. Of soundless deaths. Of hallucinations. Of corridors that whispered and walls that bled red light. Many dismissed the reports as panic. A fluke. Human luck. But Ziratel's personal report, backed by internal logs and verified biometric data, could not be denied. Human ships are not vessels, his closing line read. They are philosophies built from fear, deception, and understanding of the mind. We did not lose to metal. We lost a thought. It was forwarded to 3 Vriex war councils. 2 classified it as psychological warfare and dismissed it. The 3rd did not. Back aboard the Banshee, the crew gathered in the main debrief chamber. The lighting had returned to standard tones. The threat had passed, but the tension hadn't fully left. Kale stood next to Reyna as she addressed the room. We were outnumbered but never outclassed. Not because we had better weapons, but because we knew how to use what we had. You all executed with precision, with control, and with restraint. The crew stood silently, absorbing her words. Today wasn't a victory, she continued. It was a warning, one we meant for them to carry home, one they will remember. A beat. Then she added, and if they forget next time, we don't warn them first. As the Banshee turned back toward Terran space, its engines flaring quietly in the black, Reyna stood in the captain's observatory, alone. Outside, the stars stretched unbroken, peaceful again. Kale's voice came through the intercom. Navlock confirmed. We're clear. Reyna answered, good. Then Nyx spoke, her voice quieter than usual. They believed we were monsters. Reyna stared into the void. No, she said. They believed we were prey. She turned, the faintest smile at the edge of her mouth. They won't make that mistake again.